From legendary scorers who paved the way in the league to the tallest, most dominant man to ever play in the NHL, throughout the NHL's history, we've seen some of the toughest pro athletes in the world, and you certainly do not want to mess with them. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the 20 most feared NHL players of all time. Let's dive right in. Gordie Howe. Known as Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe was considered one of the toughest players in the NHL during his career. Although he wasn't much of a fighter, he could dish out a hard hit whenever he needed to. Gordie Howe made his presence known on the ice with a combination of physical strength, scoring ability, true grit, and supreme durability. Howe went on to play until he was 51 years old, the bulk of that coming with the Detroit Red Wings. The right winger had a remarkably long career for a hockey player, appearing in professional games stretching over 5 decades from 1946 through to 1980. Gordie Howe finished his career with 801 goals and 1,049 assists in 1,767 regular season games played. The Hall of Famer certainly left his mark on the NHL as a tough guy with what is now known as the Gordie Howe hat trick. This is when a player gets a goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game. Scott Stevens. Scott Stevens was the toughest player on some very good New Jersey Devil teams, including 3 that won the Stanley Cup. Scott Stevens played in over 1,600 games throughout his career, laying out some devastating hits in that time. There's one hit that stands out among the rest, and that is when Scott Stevens took down the Flyers star Eric Lindros in a hit that Eric Lindros may still be feeling today. Rob Blake. Rob Blake was one of the best two-way defensemen in the league during the course of his 19-year career and was a major physical presence on the ice. Blake put up over 1,600 penalty minutes in 1,270 games played and was always ready for a big hit. He won the Norris Trophy in 1993 as the league's top defensive player and was elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2014. Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr is considered one of the best NHLers in history, and he is certainly one of the toughest. Bobby Orr did not drop the gloves many times, but he definitely threw down when he needed to, and on top of that, the Boston Bruins defenseman played through some grueling injuries. Bobby Orr was forced to retire early in his career because of those injuries, but before he retired, he won 8 Norris trophies and racked up 1,000 penalty minutes. Orr also scored one of the best goals in playoff hockey history, which spawned one of the greatest sports photographs we've ever seen. Donald Brashear. Donald Brashear had a lengthy career in the NHL as one of the top enforcers in the league. At 6'3", 237 pounds, he certainly had the size for it. Brashear ended his career with over 2,600 penalty minutes, and one of his biggest claims to fame is taking part in the most penalized NHL game ever. Donald Brashear was playing for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they were facing the Ottawa Senators when the two teams combined for a record 419 penalty minutes. In that game, Brashear fought fellow enforcer Rob Ray in an epic clash. Chris Pronger. Chris Pronger was one of the most skilled defensive players in the league during his career, but he was also an intimidating presence on the ice. Standing at 6'6", 220 pounds, Pronger was often the biggest player in the rink and had no problem throwing his weight around. The defenseman has the distinction of being suspended twice in one playoff year, coming in 2007, and was suspended 8 different times during the course of his playing days. Jeff Beukeboom. Beukeboom was the enforcer and heavy hitter for the 1994 New York Rangers team that won the Stanley Cup, giving players like Adam Graves and Brian Leetch some protection on the ice. Jeff Beukeboom won 3 Stanley Cup titles in his career and finished his playing days with nearly 1,900 penalty minutes in just 804 games played. Cam Neely. Cam Neely was one of the few tough guys who could also score. He had nearly 400 goals in 726 career games played, and in between those goals, he also knew how to deliver a major hit. Neely spent over 1,200 minutes in the penalty box throughout his career and even earned the nickname Bam Bam Cam from Boston Bruins fans. Marty Murray. Marty Murray was one of the hardest hitting NHL players in history, and during the course of his career, his most important role was playing bodyguard for Wayne Gretzky. Murray finished his career ranked in the top 5 in penalty minutes, but he also ended with some controversy. Murray was suspended in the 2000 season after slashing Donald Brashear in the head, causing him to fall and suffer a concussion. This slash led to a major brawl and to Marty Murray being charged with assault. Brendan Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan could boast that he's the best offensive tough guy in NHL history. At the time of his retirement, he was the only player with 600 goals and at least 2,000 penalty minutes. Shanahan won 3 Stanley Cup championships with the Detroit Red Wings and was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2013. Oddly enough, after his playing days were over, Shanahan took a job with the NHL as the senior vice president, a role that had him handing out rulings on players who made illegal hits. During his playing career though, Shanahan had no problem dropping his gloves when he needed to. Matthew Barnaby. Matthew Barnaby was known for taunting his opponents on the ice during his career, including during fights and after big hits. The winger played for a number of teams throughout 14 seasons, including the Sabres, Pittsburgh Penguins, Tampa Bay Lightning, New York Rangers, Colorado Avalanche, Chicago Blackhawks, and the Dallas Stars. Barnaby is best remembered for his time in Buffalo. He finished his career ranked in the top 20 all-time for penalty minutes with 2,562. Mark Messier. Mark Messier is one of the most accomplished offensive players in NHL history, but he also had no problems when it came to throwing his body around. Messier finished his career with nearly 700 goals and 1,910 penalty minutes. Heck, this guy was so hard to make budge, his nickname was the Moose. Messier was a furious and intimidating player, and that mindset got him suspended a few times, including for a hit on Dallas Stars forward Mike Modano with a very dirty elbow. Derek Bogard. Derek Bogard embraced his role as an enforcer throughout his career, earning the nickname Boogeyman. Even in his junior hockey days, Bogard was known for his fighting. He was considered to be one of the toughest and most intimidating players during his time in the NHL, standing at 6'8", 265 pounds. The former Minnesota Wild and New York Ranger star once fractured Todd Fedoruk's cheek and also knocked out Trevor Gillis with an uppercut in a fight. Unfortunately, Bogard's life had a tragic ending in 2011 that may have been brought on from his enforcing days. Derek Bogard will always be linked to the NHL and the fighting culture that he participated in, but he also epitomized the toughness and grit that many hockey players have. Rob Ray. Rob Ray was one of the top enforcers in the NHL throughout his playing career. He racked up 3,270 penalty minutes while playing for the Sabres and Ottawa Senators. Rob Ray made a major impact on the NHL fighting rules, as he often would not have his equipment latched onto his pants, meaning opponents could not get a good grip on him because he would be fighting essentially topless. This allowed Rob Ray to get the upper hand quite a bit, but it also forced the NHL to enact the Rob Ray rule to stop players from using his strategy. Rob Ray's playing style certainly contrasted his off-ice persona. He won the King Clancy Memorial Trophy in 1999 for leadership and humanitarianism. Tony Twist. Tony Twist was known as one of the top NHL enforcers during his time in the league, racking up over 1,100 penalty minutes in his 10-year career. He was a fan favorite for the St. Louis Blues and never backed down from a fight. Sometimes Twist even started them on his own, with one of his most memorable fights coming with Eric Lindros. Zdeno Charara. When you're 6'9", 255 pounds and play hockey, there's a good chance that you will end up an enforcer. Zdeno Charara established himself as one of the most fearsome players to ever play the game and is obviously one of the heaviest hitters. In his career, he did face some controversial moments, the biggest moment coming when he smashed Montreal Canadiens forward Max Pacioretty into the boards in 2011. Zdeno Charara is not considered to be a dirty player, he is just a huge mountain of a man who can throw his weight around. Ty Domi. When people think of hockey tough guys, Ty Domi usually comes to mind. That's what happens when you play for 16 seasons and finish your career with the third most penalty minutes of all time with 3,515. Domi is known by many hockey fans primarily because he threw down the gloves quite a bit. One of his most well-known and worst moments of Ty Domi's career was when he sucker punched Rangers defenseman Ulf Samuelsson, which resulted in a suspension. Tiger Williams. Tiger Williams actually was a fairly productive offensive player, putting up at least 40 points in 6 different seasons. But with that being said, he also had a knack for being violent on the ice, which led to multiple suspensions, including one occasion when he was hit with an 8-game ban for trying to choke out a Calgary Flames player with his own stick. Wendel Clark. A former #1 overall pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Wendel Clark scored at least 30 goals in 6 different seasons, but he was better known for his ferocious fighting and his devastating checks. Clark spent 1,690 minutes in the penalty box throughout his career, which goes a long way in explaining why he is a major fan favorite in Toronto. The 5'11", 190-pound winger was proud of his reputation in the league, and he earned himself the nickname Captain Crunch for his hard hits. Wendel Clark played for a number of teams over the course of his 15-year career, including the Maple Leafs 3 different times, the Quebec Nordiques, the New York Islanders, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Chicago Blackhawks. Maurice Rashard. Maurice the Rocket Rashard is a legend in hockey history as one of the best playmakers ever and one of the first high-scoring players in the NHL. Rashard was the first player to score 50 goals in one season, and when he retired, he was the all-time leader in goals with 544. Throughout his career with the Montreal Canadiens, he was as famous for his scoring touch as he was for his fiery temper and toughness on the ice. Maurice Rashard finished his career with nearly 1,300 penalty minutes. One of his most infamous moments came during the 1954-55 season when he hit a linesman during a game. Rashard was later suspended by the NHL for the rest of the season and the playoffs, which later sparked a riot in the streets of Montreal. This riot was aptly named the Rashard Riot, and things got so crazy in this riot that it caused over $100,000 in damage. Thanks for watching our videos. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button.